In this episode of AI in Action, we talk about the intersection of artificial intelligence and the current state of grocery prices. We explore how AI can facilitate in-depth research into complex topics such as food inflation, regulatory impacts, and the dynamics of the food supply chain. We highlight the importance of education in navigating these issues and the role of AI in enhancing our understanding of the world around us.
Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and this is just 30 minutes to do a core dump to talk about artificial intelligence. So tonight we're going to be talking about something a little bit different because I don't know how long you guys might have been listening to us or how long you might have known Jim, because I know we have a lot of friends who kind of listen to this podcast. Jim tends to go down the rabbit hole. And in 2022, when OpenAI released ChatGPT, it's been like gangbusters since then.
Well, I don't rabbit hole, maybe.
Come on.
I like information.
Okay, so you do not have an official diagnosis of ADHD, but I have been with you for 42
years.
2 years, married for 39. I have a master's in counseling.
Okay, you're right. You're right. Okay.
Have ADHD tendencies, a little more ADD, not as hyper. But you chase rabbits. You have a thought. I mean,
is this Jim's counseling hour?
It could be.
Let's not. Let's move.
But it could be.
Let's go past Jim's counseling.
We could dig deep into the psyche of Jim.
Let's don't.
So what happened was the other day we were having a conversation. We actually went over at the end of each year. We sit down with our son-in-law, who also is now our accountant, and we look at, okay, here's our financial picture. Yes, we're poor. This is where you're spending your money. Groceries. You were talking to me after that meeting with him because you're like, how is our monthly budget for groceries basically the same as it was when we had kids living at home?
3 kids, 2 boys.
3 kids, two boys that like literally ate a lot of food, football players, athletes. Yes. And now that we are empty nesters, we are not seeing a significant decline in our grocery bill.
Okay, before we go too much further down that rabbit hole, part of the problem is we live in a small town and the grocery stores here are ridiculously expensive.
They get you. They have a couple of things that are loss leaders, but yes, overall.
When we go there to get a 2-liter thing of orange juice, it costs twice as much as it does one town over.
Basically, yes.
I know they have transportation costs, but I think that's a bit much. I've always complained about grocery bills. I'm not going to stop complaining about grocery bills. We all complain about grocery bills. However, because as you pointed out, I have a new tool to play with, I can do a lot of research. Specifically, what I wanted to talk about, or what I did, was deep research. Ever since deep research came out, and when you talk about AI, when you look at it, when you use an AI nowadays, there's like a fast answer and then there's a reasoning answer. The original models didn't do reasoning. That came about a year to a year and a half after they first came out.
Now let's explain reasoning really quickly to people who are not like as AI savvy as you are.
I mean, it basically is what it sounds like. You tell the AI,
asking me this question, how am I going to answer this? And then it literally will tell you, okay, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, I'm researching this, I'm researching that, and it's coming up with a logical conclusion. No?
Sort of.
Okay, explain.
The way the reasoning works is it's very literal. You tell the AI, I want you to think about this. So originally, most of the prompting stuff was very simple prompt. You would ask it some people treated it like Google, but even the ones who didn't, like me, it couldn't go past sort of a layer deep, if you want to think about that. So they put these almost feedback loops in to make them reason deeper. And at first it was just a prompting trick, but there's a whole lot more to it now. But they literally, if you look in the system prompts, if you could see the system prompts for ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, when they're using their reasoning models, that's the system prompt is saying, it's telling it, think about this longer. Well, the problem with doing that is it takes longer to get an answer, and you don't always need that.
Right.
Well, there's another layer of that came out probably a year or so ago called deep research.
I remember you had a $200 a month subscription there for a while.
Because I could do 100 deep researches a month on ChatGPT. They were the first one that came out with it. Google came out with it shortly afterward. What I do now is if I have a topic that I want to go down the rabbit hole, but I don't have the time to go down it, I do deep research. In this particular case, I use Gemini because I tend to default to it quite a bit because I'm used to Google owns information. I mean, let's face it, Google owns all the information. So my assumption is they're probably going to do a pretty good job.
Right. They're going to have
And
access to the news articles and the research papers and just
stuff they're probably not even supposed to have access to. Okay. When you look at deep research, what Google does really well, and ChatGPT does it pretty well as well. I don't know about Anthropic or Claude, but anyway, it will go through sometimes hundreds of sources. This material that I did the research on, I was watching it do it because, like you said, it shows it on the screen, and I lost track of the number of sources. That being said, you still have to be careful about it. And so decided to try something different with this. This affects all of us, the grocers do. So I'm not the only one who wants to know. Everybody's got their own theory as to what the root cause is. And so I wanted it to go off and do some deep research. I wanted to give me sources. I told it that. I want you have to tell it, I want you to create a paper on this. And supposedly it's a college PhD level paper on a particular topic. My plan was, once I got this, because I have another obsession. They're called infographics.
Yes.
Which Google generates really, really well.
Now, this is through Notebook LM, infographics?
No, Gemini does it.
Just all of it.
Well, okay. Nano Banana Pro.
Oh, yes.
Nano Banana Pro generates infographics in Gemini.
Say that again?
No. Anyway, I asked it. So this was all, I put it in Notebook LM because I wanted to build a podcast from it. So
because you're auditory.
I like to listen to things. I'm very auditory. It helps me stay focused on it. But I generated the infographic because it's such a nice visualization of what you're trying to remember. I see pictures and I hear stuff better. My worst learning modality is reading, which is ironic considering I'm an engineer and I had to read a lot.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time staying focused when I read. So anyway, I generated a couple of infographics, which I gave to you. And I wanted us to post this.
And we are going to. I'm going to put this as a PDF in like the comments of our YouTube channel. And then there's a resource page that's going to be created on our website, and I will post some of the stuff on our resource page.
Now, remember, I did try to verify some of it, but this came from Google. So if you're one of the companies that gets mentioned in this research in a non-positive way, I didn't do that.
We're only as good as the information given us.
I asked Google, and Google gave me through Gemini the answers. Anybody could do the same thing.
To those websites.
Some of them. Right. There was there's like 100 sources. But I did verify some of it. I mean, in other words, I did Google, if you want to call that verifying it, to see if it comes up.
That's what most people do in life, right? If I have like 10 things that I'm going to try, if 3 of them are correct, then I'm not going to worry about doing the other ones. I mean, everyone takes those shortcuts. You don't have time to verify every single thing.
Correct.
So
when people look at this, then I want them to keep that in mind. So I gave it to you.
Yes.
What do you get out of this?
It's very colorful.
It is colorful, but
it's very colorful. And if you are watching this,
now this is about proteins.
This is the
first. To mention that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to hold this up right here.
Well,
I understand, but they can go to our YouTube channel. They can go to our YouTube channel if they want to see it. And we'll post this as a PDF. It's kind of a cool infographic. I understand. Now, we were just in I'm not going to say what it was, but we were just at an event not too long ago, and they were using a lot of infographics that they had thrown up on the screen in some of their presentations.
Full too.
And it was overwhelming the amount of information they were trying to put on infographic all on one 16:9 slide.
But I will tell those people, because obviously they don't know how to prompt. When you're using Nano Banana Pro, you can, and especially in Notebook LM, you can actually give a prompt to the infographic. In other words, you can constrain it. And you'll notice I did 2 different variations. One of the one you were just holding up is the one I just let it do.
Right.
The other one was...
And then we found one little mistake on it. And it's something you and I kind of had discussed, too, about sharing this information.
Yes.
Decided not to.
Well, you're beating around the bush. Okay. I mean, I am an engineer. You're an educator. I don't have the kind of filters you have. When I look at this stuff, the first thing I thought was, well, this is good for our ag class. The problem is as I thought about it, I have no ability to do politics at all. I don't get politics.
You say it like it is.
And the problem is I didn't want to put them on the spot and them be accused. Because, we've already had these people that accused our librarians of being porn pushers. I don't know what triggers these people in terms of, what is it going to trigger them? And I was afraid if I gave them this for them to talk about in class, student went home and talked about it, we'd be accused of indoctrinating them into actually useful information. So I didn't want to put them on the spot. But I'd love to know how accurate it is. So if anybody downloads it, because the thing is, these are cognitive services, meaning
that's what AI does.
AI is a cognitive service, and most people probably don't know what that means, but basically it's different than all the other information access we've had in the past.
I mean, we had to go find the information, then we had to take and synthesize and ingest it and make something out of it.
And it will do that for you. The question is, I used to tell people this all the time. I can tell you why I made every decision I made pretty much. I just can't guarantee they're correct.
Well, you know why you made the decision of marrying me.
And I just can't guarantee they're correct. So whenever
Jim
you look at this, when you look at this, I don't know if this is 100%, but it seems reasonable.
Let's go through it just a second. Let's
go ahead.
Kind of go through it a little bit. So
first of all, name the protein sources so everybody knows what we're talking about.
So this one right here is the anatomy of a price surge in the U.S. grocery inflation between 2020 and 2026
for two protein sources.
Proteins. This cattle, your cattle supply, and your beef prices, and then your poultry. So
chicken and cows, beef and chicken.
The only meat you ever really need, right?
No, because you say that the other white meat is
the
pork.
other white meat.
And I did another one on pork.
You did that because I mentioned that pork was being left out, so you did another one. So let's talk about this. A few things that it pulled up for us to consider.
Stuff that kind of stands out.
Why we have an inflation of grocery prices. Starts with we're at a 73-year low on our cattle inventory.
Why the hell are we so low on cattle?
Well, let's talk about.
Does it say?
It says here that persistent drought has forced a massive liquidation of
I remember
the herds.
that. Here, remember, because people, the hay problem. Nobody could get any hay. You and I even talked about how, because at one of the first ones, my dad was in California with my mother because he was working out there. This was several years ago.
Jacob was 15. So
and they were talking about how they had excess amount of hay out there, but we couldn't get it here cheap enough. So the farmers couldn't afford it. I remember people had things on the side of, anyway, I remember this.
Yes. So it was about 16 years ago, which it says here that we hit the lowest level since 1951. So what happened to these?
Drought.
We had a drought.
Had a bad drought.
And so we're looking at, persistent drought, lack of feed, lack of water. And so you can't, my dad is not a rancher by any stretch, but he does keep a cow or two, and he has sold those cows several times.
He can't feed them.
He didn't have the grass in the field. He was having to supplement too much.
Okay, so number one is drought. What about
then you're looking at the 100 million plus birds that were lost to the avian flu.
What the hell do they do with them? Bury them? Burn them?
Yeah, they dispose of them. Now, this is something.
I hope they don't make cattle
feed. It became an epidemic. It destroyed egg laying capacity and caused 38.5% price spikes.
Okay.
Spikes in chickens. Now, if you are from East Texas, which I had gone back there, that's where I'm originally from. I went back there not too long ago with my family, and there are Tyson and all of these big, huge Purdue. I guess Purdue.
It is.
Bird, almost like greenhouses.
They used to have turkey farms, and that's what I get turkey in my research.
If one of those birds gets the avian flu, it's a disaster for the whole thing.
Well, they have to wipe out the whole flock, otherwise it'll cause them all to get sick.
That is what they're saying has caused a lot of the problems with poultry prices.
It's a lot.
Then we go on down the infographic, and it talks about the biofuel price floor. Demand for renewable diesel links energy costs to feed, preventing prices from falling.
Biofuels. The thing, I can go off on a whole thing about biofuels.
Yes, Jim had a biofuel.
I did. We made biodiesel in our backyard.
Yes, we did.
Using cooking oil, and I have the whole recipe. And we still have oil that I'm trying to get rid of because we didn't make it all into biofuel. Anyway, making fuel out of corn is just dumb. But
corn is a huge crop, and we decided we were going to start using it for something else.
We should make fuel out of what we eat.
So the next thing it starts talking about is let's look at the $87.5 million antitrust settlement
Yeah.
that happened in 2020.
Well,
that was a mistake.
That was one of the mistakes on here. It said it was settled in 2029, which isn't here yet. I did look it up, and there was one. I think it was settled in 2024. Suppliers were basically accused. I'm sure they didn't plead guilty because they never do when they settle, but they were accused of price fixing, basically. That's the conspiratorial side. I pulled out some information for you specifically on that.
We're going to talk about this,
and I think that's actually in the information.
It is.
It is. These companies supposedly were collaborating and setting price floors. Yeah. And that's like against the law.
Going into the restaurant, meeting at the back table, you know.
I don't think so. They were meeting at the club.
And, you know, and talking about, hey, if you'll charge this much, then I'll charge that.
I don't think so.
No, it's not that clandestine.
Think about how little money that is.
Really?
Considering the size of the market. They got fined $87.5 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking
now
about...
that trust settlement went to like the farmers and stuff, right?
I guess.
The people who are being affected the most. Because
doubt it.
Let's look at it this way. If
some CEO's bonus.
Well, not just that, but let's think about this. If I have 4 corporations that have the majority of the beef and poultry industry.
Well, it's the meat packing industry.
Okay, I will buy cattle from these ranchers, but I'm only going to offer them X amount on the hoof, is what it's called. And if you agree to only offer them that too, then
what's price fixing?
It's not just price fixing when it comes to how much you're going to sell once it's gone through all the processing and ends up on the grocery store shelf. It's also price fixing when it comes to how much you're willing to pay for the product to begin with.
Well, that's the whole price fixing scheme.
Yeah.
The shape that it talked about in the research that I did was an hourglass shape.
Right.
You've got the ranchers at the top feeding in all of the product. The product. And then you have the consumers at the bottom. You've got a lot of them, but you've got this in the middle. It's an artificial squeeze going on in the middle by these people because they're fixing the prices.
It was 4 firms that controlled 85% of beef processing.
That's correct.
So those 4 firms that control that were the ones putting the squeeze in the hourglass. So let's talk about that. So I looked here and I came out with some questions that I wanted to ask you based on the rabbit hole that you went down.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first question is, a lot of people say, is it a rigged versus a real debate?
That's one of the things. This is why I wanted to give it to the ag class. I wanted the students to debate this. I wanted to hear a student perspective. I wanted to hear people who teach ag's perspective.
And who have ranches.
It saddens me that I live in a world, because I didn't grow up in a world like this. I grew up in a world where you ask the question. Now everybody's afraid to ask the question because they're going to get accused of indoctrinating kids into some particular way of thinking. Now, I don't know if that's true in this one. Maybe I could have given it to them and they would have been happy to. Of course, the other part of education is they have these strict educational guidelines they have to follow. So I'm not sure they can put this in. But to me, this is the kind of stuff that you should be talking about.
Right.
These are the kids that, especially high school kids, these are the ones that are going to be voting soon.
So you have
real versus
rigged.
Most people in small towns think it's rigged.
Really?
Every time I have not had a conversation with someone who doesn't go, oh, it's rigged. I had a conversation with a hog farmer 10 years ago. Because when I was growing up here, we had a hog auction.
Hog pen road?
We have a hog pen road, which every small town probably has. We had a cattle auction barn. It was right down by my house. The trucks used to go night and day around auction time. That's all gone.
Yeah.
And I asked a hog farmer what happened to him. He said the slaughterhouses. That the pipeline into the stores was so tightly controlled, they couldn't get theirs into the feedlots. Because they usually put them in the feedlots and they feed them out before they go to the slaughterhouse. I know that sounds nasty if you're a vegetarian. I'm sorry, but that's the way it works. I mean, that stuff gets in those packages somehow. But they said they couldn't get in it because all of that process was owned by these companies.
So the four companies that have 85% of the beef, they're sending all of their beef to the feedlots. And the other smaller companies, there's not capacity at the feedlots for theirs to get sent there.
Yeah, they're not going to give them capacity because they're going to claim they're at full capacity, providing the big chain stores like H-E-B and stuff. I mean, that's where it's going. Once it's processed, it's going to people like H-E-B, and they control the whole pipeline. And I'm not saying HEB does. I'm saying these companies collude to make sure that's the debate about being rigged. And I don't think it's that simple, but I do think that factors into the equation.
So what about real?
Well, I don't think that's wrong.
Okay, so what I am wondering is if the people or the entities that are rigging the system are using the natural occurrences to give them an excuse.
Okay, I've got a new infographic.
Okay, here we go.
Right here.
It's the rocket and the feather.
The rocket and the feather.
So that's what they're doing. For instance,
we talked about that on COVID.
Happened.
Yes, you and I talked about that.
COVID happened, pandemic, all the shelves were bought out, everyone's panicking, dogs and cats living together. It's just
toilet paper couldn't be found for a year.
Toilet paper could not be found anywhere.
And what happened when COVID went away?
COVID went away, and all of a sudden everyone's like, you know what? The American people are willing to pay $16 for 12 rolls of toilet paper.
And these same corporations were claiming that it was due to COVID. But at the same time, if you sat on their financial calls,
they were still profiting.
Well, no, they weren't.
They went up.
Their margins were even higher. Right. They were bragging about how much money they're making. If you've got a true shortage from a manufacturing problem from COVID, then you shouldn't have record profits.
You're feeling the squeeze too.
They're part of that hourglass. So what that means, the rocket and the feather means that prices go up like a rocket.
Really fast.
And they float down like a feather.
So
and right now, they're not floating down.
Right. So the drought and all of the natural things that might cause something to rocket might happen, but then the riggers get a piece of that and go. So it's a little bit.
Well, we live in a capitalistic society, supply and demand. You have a right to do that. However, this is people's food supply. And to me, I can't see how you can sleep at night knowing that you've got record margins while people are going hungry.
Well, for me, it's the
kind of
choice.
sick.
And we've mentioned this on the podcast
Just
before.
why we're poor, by the way.
We had two of our children that worked at a pharmaceutical location.
Yes.
And when you have somebody coming in and having to decide between whether or not they can get a medication for diabetes or for heart problems or whatever it is, versus whether or not they can put food on the table because grocery prices are so high, then we've got a systemic problem that we need to address. Oh, he's amazing.
He is amazing because he tries to our daughter said little old ladies would come in and couldn't buy their diabetic medication. He would figure out how to get it financed somehow. Anyway,
Mama said he's going to have a lot of stars in his crown.
Yes.
Because he does that for Llano County. All right. Let's talk about.
So when you look at, we've got to talk about the pigs now. This one's interesting because this is.
Jim added the pigs because it's the other white meat.
I forgot turkey though.
No. Oh, well, this gives you something you can do. As soon as we finish this podcast, you can run off to your lab.
Now I've moved on. I'm not going to do any more research on this one. I've done with this rabbit hole. But I thought this was interesting because the reasons are different. Proposition 12, which was government regulations in California. And basically what they said was that it had to do with the way the animals were being treated inhumanely, probably in these feedlots.
Right.
So it had to do with how crowded they were. I mean, we've driven by the feedlots. They're kind of gross. So they passed a law. Well, the thing is that I think it was 15 or 20% of the pork being sold. Apparently California's like pork. So if you wanted to sell to California,
it had to come from a different type of lot.
You had to upgrade. You had to upgrade your
right
compliance.
Here. You had to get
compliant. You had to get compliant. Yeah. Okay, you got to hold that one up for people who want to watch it too.
So this is a different infographic.
So the hog one is this Proposition 12 again. So the compliance cost.
It cost a lot of money.
Made it go up. But again, it's the rocket and the feather thing, because once you put in that, I'm assuming that the cost would level out. But once they figured out, once again, the prices shot up. But shouldn't
people are willing to pay it, and that's the problem.
Should have come back down. And think about what it did to bacon. I mean, I didn't know this, and I was wondering what happened with the bacon. And we used to go buy a package of bacon. It was like it's like $15 now.
It's been that way for a while.
I know it has been for a while. I don't know when Proposition 12 came out, but I do think that you can't use that as an excuse to unregulate the industry. I agree with this idea of regulation. I've seen what some of these feedlots look like it is inhumane. You can't treat the animals like that. It's nasty. Well, and it's stressful for the animals to the point where
that's the thing. I mean, I'm sitting here. The reason I just shook my head at you and just kind of rolled my eyes is because I'm sorry. I'm going to bathe my cow before I send him off to slaughter.
okay,
I mean,
let's not
come
go
on.
that crazy with it. But they didn't go that far with it.
But what I'm saying is, it's the stress that the animal is put under.
It actually
It causes a difference in everything when it comes to the texture of the muscle and everything else that you're going to end up with whenever it is slaughtered. And
I worked for a turkey farm whenever I was a
you
kid, and
you stunk a
I know
lot.
my mom used to make me get undressed on the porch. And Tyson owned the turkey farm that I worked for. There was a lot of turkey farms around here, and they're all closed. But the one I worked for was called Big Turk, and if you stressed the turkeys, they would die.
Yeah.
And if they die before you transport them, you don't get paid for them. So that you had to move the turkeys at night. You had to make sure you didn't overcrowd them. And even then, you still lost some. So it is hard on the animals, and it causes a loss.
I think that this is just my 2 cents worth. Notice what I did there, 2 cents.
Got it.
The problem that we're running into is that if the American people are willing to pay a certain price for something, then the company is like, okay, they're paying that price. I'm making all of this profit. Therefore, I'm going to leave my prices high.
Rocket and a feather. I
understand, and I can see, because I'm always saying follow the money, follow the money. If it is something that is a non-negotiable.
There's a difference between you charging me too much for my cell phone.
Food to me is a non-negotiable.
How long can you live without water, food, oxygen? It's what, three minutes, 3 days, 3 weeks or something. There's like the threes. You cannot leave completely unregulated something that's life-threatening. That's the problem with our medical industry right now. We're going to run out of time, and before we do, I gave you some more information because you asked me specifically, because you said people keep asking you this. What do you do about it?
Yeah, and I mean, when you and I were talking about this, first of all, this episode.
Did you not have that information?
This episode doesn't have a lot to do with artificial intelligence. And
it actually does. It actually does.
A little bit.
No.
Because, well, hang on.
I don't agree with you. It does have something to do with it.
We'll argue about it in just a minute.
We're going to argue about it.
Okay. So when we first started talking about this, I was like, this is not going to have a lot to do with artificial intelligence. I understand that we're using artificial intelligence to get all of this information.
That's the point.
The infographics, it's giving you a whole new avenue to get knowledge, which is amazing.
To interpret.
But the one thing that I said, all right, Jim, here we go. Is it rig versus real? Is it the rocket and the feather? Is it the end of cheap food? First of all, it's the end of healthy food, probably, because the less healthy the food, the more cheap it is, and therefore we're talking
it's cheaper to
health problems. And
yes, it is.
But what's the solution? That's the one thing that everybody leaves out.
Well,
I see LinkedIn post all the time about all of this stuff, and here's my opinion. And the one question I get asked a lot is, okay, that's a valid opinion. Now, what's the answer?
Well, and I got some information, which maybe I didn't send to you. I meant to. We're going to have to run through it real quick because we're going to run out of time. I have not been able to verify this because you asked me for this today.
Like today when we're talking about it, yeah.
There's an executive order, December 2025. The White House issued a sweeping executive order on food supply chain security. Task Force, Federal Trade Commission, tasked to investigate price fixing and meat processing, seeds, and fertilizer.
Still? So they're still thinking there's price fixing going on.
Blocking consolidation, Kroger-Albertson merger. That's that, end where how it gets the customers. They're actively intervening to stop it. I think that was pre-Trump. And then the FTC's argument, they challenged proposed merger. And then the outcome was, yes, that was right before Trump. So that was in the Biden administration where they stopped that one. Litigation against the digital cartels. There's some stuff about poultry. The point of all of this is this is too big for an individual.
Right.
If you want to make a difference here, vote. Look at the administration. Look at what we're worrying about. This affects everybody. Mm-hmm. This isn't just about whether or not you agree with some part of how the government is doing something. And it doesn't matter if you've got Trump or Biden or Obama. I don't care who's in office. What you should care about is the only people that can really make a difference with this is the federal government. It's too big otherwise. Mm-hmm. These companies are so large.
And a lot of them are not necessarily American owned.
Well, I think if they're not, they should be. There was I remember there was a lot of people talking about how the Chinese companies were buying up American farmland.
A lot of it.
And I don't know if that's true. I can say that I heard that. I can't say it's 100%
Rachel
true.
did a big thing in college on it, and that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
But we also have these billionaires doing it too. I mean, Bill Gates is this, he owns like 200 million acres or something. You get such a consolidation. I'm not a big fan of that whole idea. These billionaires are buying up these massive amounts of land. Ask the Irish what happens when you're living on land you're growing food for and you don't own. The Irish potato famine, they didn't starve because they didn't have food. They starved because
they weren't allowed to keep their food.
They weren't allowed to keep their food, and the only thing they could keep was potatoes. The potato famine wiped out their potato crop, so a million Irishmen starved, and the rest of them came over here. So I don't agree with this consolidation of land with billionaires and large corporations.
But you're correct.
Either.
The only one that can stop that is going to be the federal
It's got to be at the federal level.
And so, in my point of view, it's like, okay, I see on Facebook, I see on Instagram, I see on the news, this horrible thing just happened, this horrible thing just happened. And we're not getting to pick our neighbors, and we're not getting to do this, we're not getting to do that. And you and I say it all the time. They find something that is really inconsequential when it comes to our actual lives for us to focus on. So if you're going to
find something there's no solution.
There's no solution to. I mean, exactly. So it's like if you're going to go find a candidate that you are going to look at their policies and how you think exactly. But the boring stuff,
it's what affects your everyday life.
What affects your everyday life.
Talk to the candidates about it, but Congress has got to act on this. The Federal Trade Commission's got to act on this. The president can certainly direct it, but he doesn't get to decide.
No.
Even though he's in charge of the Federal Trade Commission. It doesn't matter. I don't care who's in office. This has got to be fixed. These prices, it's ridiculous.
Well, I know that when you and I look at our retirement, one of the things that we were kind of banking on is that we were not going to have as big of a grocery bill when our kids were no longer,
hadn't gone down. It hasn't gone a bit.
It hasn't gone down a bit. If anything,
every time a kid left, the prices, it's like our insurance, our health insurance. Every time a kid left, it should have went down. It stayed the same. We're like, how did this happen? The grocery bills went up to match, and we don't eat out that much either. So it's not like we're eating out food. We're talking about food we make in house.
Honey, it's time for us to do red beans and rice.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter is probably pretty expensive.
Probably is. Anyway, just to draw this back to what we're talking about, how does this connect to AI? What I wanted to encourage people to do is, and that's why I want to post this, AI allows you to do research at a deeper level than you're ever going to have time to do on a subject you probably will never do. In other words, it's one thing to say, I'm going to do research because, there's something I want to, people will do a lot of research on buying a new graphics card for their computer or a new golf club. But when it comes down to researching this mundane stuff that really affects their life, people they don't spend the time to do it, or they don't know how to do it. You can do some very, very good, thorough research and then talk about it. Take what you found, make an infographic and share it with others. Talk about it with your kids, show them the pictures, debate on it.
Find the top 5 things that you're going to ask the representative in your county or the representative that's at the town hall meeting.
And show it to them. Yeah. And when you take this information and you use a tool like I did, like Notebook LM, and you don't have to use Notebook LM. It's just really, I make a podcast out of it. I mean, you can listen to it while you're driving down the road. It can help you educate yourself. And most importantly, this is a good example of why kids need to be educated, because you and I talked about this today. If I was in school and I had that nice little infographic there, I'd have turned that baby in for my homework.
You would have been done your poster project.
My poster project.
Then this as a very large piece of paper.
But if a teacher takes that and goes, is this correct? Is this information valid? And if so, why? How do you verify? Because the AI is making decisions about the impacts. It's saying you look at it, most of it's logical. It's making this decision that because the prices are high in beef because of, the cows, the lowest. But is that real? Is it true? And that gets harder to figure out in a world where AI is generating so much information, some of which is completely garbage. So how do you take that information and go, is this real?
So we're going to go back to what we always say. What is the key? The absolute key.
Yeah. Educate and making people skeptical. And the best way to be skeptical is to know a lot. I like to argue, surprisingly enough.
Really?
I like to argue. And I argue with the AI all the time. And it's wrong as much as it's right because I argue really well because I enjoy doing it. And it corrects itself. Kids won't argue with it unless you teach them that they need to.
I agree.
Anyway, it's
All
good
right.
information. We'll
I
post.
think we are out of time. I have no idea. We are at 38 minutes.
Yes, we're way over time.
So my name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Thank you guys for listening to AI in Action. We hope that y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.